Hi, I'm Andrew Hura. I'm lead environment artist, and we're here at Wargaming Chicago.
So we're talking about War Stories, which is going to be available across all console platforms, but specifically 4K. Talk a little about what that opened up for you guys visually.
So with the 4K, this is really exciting for us right now. With the PS4 Pro and with the Xbox One X coming out on it, we really feel that visually, from the art side of things, we're able to open everything up for the player on there. There's been a lot of work and a lot of time going into all the various art elements of the game, such as the textures and the worlds, and more specifically and importantly, the tanks. And now that we have 4K, we're able to unleash that for all the viewers. So it's even more beautiful than what it was. You're seeing details that the players were never able to see in the past, and we really feel like it opens up our game and gives the player a wonderful experience.
And this game does take full use of, for example, in Berlin, you have snowstorms and wind and everything, and in 4K, talk a little about what that opens up.
So with the higher resolution, it definitely helps out having all of our weather variants that we have going on through there. So having the snowfall and having the wind gusts blowing and just all the little small details adds a sense of realism that perhaps, 10 years ago we weren't able to get on top of it. So having a player sit through, having the windshield being splattered by snowflakes and just seeing the wind blowing by and objects zipping past the camera really puts you in there and hopefully gives a player experience feeling that they're in this cold, frigid place in the middle of this war, and it just adds to the tension as they're playing through these levels.
And give us the high level of what War Stories is all about.
War Stories is basically a single player experience for the players to try out. They can either play by themselves or they can play co-op. And on top of what it is, story-wise, is alternate universe for the World War II era and beyond. So a player comes in and they are pitted against an alternate version of history. For instance, Brothers in Armor, the first level that comes out, that's basically US and Russian troops fighting in Romania. And they are going off through a series of events where, through the narrative and the story that is added for the War Stories, the tankers actually build a bond with one another. So you, the player, start caring about the other tanks, start caring about the other players, and when you finish this story, you walk out like you did complete a very important mission with all your friends.
And let's start talking a little bit about the actual tank crew and the customization available for players when they jump into the armory.
Absolutely. One of the most exciting things for the War Stories is now the crew customization that you bring up. In the past, you would always have one set visual for what the tanker was that you were sitting behind, and you would kind of be stuck with that. For War Stories, you can choose whoever you want. And the exciting part is not only do you choose a male, you could also choose a female tanker. You can choose male or female tankers from any of the nations that we have, and the coolest part about it as well is you can match up any audio that you want with them. So if you want, you can have a Russian female who is speaking Korean on top of it, and you can just go through there. So it's really exciting, giving the players a lot of different things that they can do. And also on top of that, you can customize their names. So if you have a favorite name, if you want to play as yourself, if you want to play as a friend, go ahead and do that.
What about for the tank itself? What can you do in the garage?
In the garage, for the War Stories, you are equipped with a tank that is specific for that level. You will play through the War Story progression with the tank that is provided for you. Once you complete these missions, then you can go back and use any tank that you have in your armory and replay the mission and try it out differently. Have any type of option you'd like.
Talk a little about some of the other scenarios that gamers will be seeing in the future.
With the War Stories, right now we have the first one, Brothers in Armor, that I discussed earlier, and then the other one is going to be Flashpoint Berlin. Flashpoint Berlin takes you in to Germany itself and crashing your way down into Berlin with the tankers, and it's really exciting mission as well. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. That's the one that you brought up about having it snow and having the tension and whatnot. After that, we will have more War Stories coming, and more information on those will be brought to you then. As you can see in the promotional video, you do see a couple other locations, and you do see London, which is kind of exciting for that. And one of my favorites that are also there is having the Cuban Missile Crisis. So thankfully there was never a war there, but this alternate story pits you in a tank on Cuba and trying to stop a Cuban Missile Crisis from happening.
How do you hope that these War Stories potentially attract brand new players to World of Tanks on console?
So with the War Stories, this being a single player campaign or playing co-op, what we hope to do is to bring in players who really aren't into multiplayer games or maybe aren't familiar enough with multiplayer games to be comfortable to do that. So by having a single player campaign, which everybody is accustomed to, hopefully we can bring those players, they can go through a war story, become a little bit more comfortable. Perhaps they then invite one of their friends to play the story co-op, and after a while, if they become a lot more comfortable and want to try their hand at a multiplayer game, then they built up the confidence in order to do so and enjoy that. Also, if there's a multiplayer player who is just tired of constantly always playing in a multiplayer setting, but does want to take a run at the game, being World of Tanks, they can jump in and enjoy a new perspective and a new way to play the game.
And even outside of war stories, can you talk a little about the console player and how they play a game versus maybe the traditional PC World of Tanks players?
I definitely see that there is a difference between console players and PC players, and it's a lot different, I think a lot more aggressive from the console players who do like to go in, but overall styles are a bit different. You do have PC players who like to sit at a desk, stare at their computer, and be very methodical on top of it. Console players, it's great because they sit on their couch, they sit back, kick their feet on their table, and they play a much more, I know from my experience, a little bit more of a relaxed game that's a lot of fun, high energy, high pace, and that's why I like going between both the PC and the console. It depends what I'm in the mood for, I choose one or the other.
And just to clarify for people out there, I mean, these console versions you're creating completely separate and different than the PC game that is out there.
Yes, absolutely. So while there are maps that are similar and tanks that are the same, between the PC and the console content is all custom for the consoles. We're not sharing any of the assets, the names, the maps, the names, but I know that we do have about 40 unique tanks that are to the console, and we also have 30 unique maps that are strictly for the console. So while we do share a lot of the same things, we do have our own things that do make the console unique in that regard.
And War Stories would be the latest of those.
War Stories is the latest one, and yes, we're very excited about that as well.